what if I do something crazy and I publish a freaking vlog? I think the first thing I want to say is, as a boy, I dreamed of being a newspaper writer, specifically a baseball writer or a columnist. So these were writers like Mike Royko, the Chicago Tribune columnist, who was famous for having this character named Slats Robnik. And Slats was like his drinking buddy who came into his columns. I grew up in Kansas City, and I became a very passionate newspaper reader. And I read the Kansas City Star of Joe McGuff and C.W. Guswell. Read the sports pages of some great baseball writers. I can remember Bob Dutton, Joe Poznanski columns. But here it is, it's 2021, right? And newspapers are like largely dead. Whether it's the Kansas City Star or the Portland Oregonian, where I worked for 6 years at the Oregonian. And I was never a writer in my 12-year newspaper career. I was a page designer and a copy editor. And, you know, I think about journalism and the death of daily print journalism. I think about it a lot. You know, it's a grief point for me. I should also say there were so many great writers and editors at the Oregonian I got to work with. When I got there, John Harvey was this major figure, and he was really in charge of a lot more than just his title. His immediate desk was the national and international wire desk, but he was sort of like a godfather, a benevolent godfather of all the copy editors, not all the copy editors, all the page designers and news editors. Anyway, he was just a big figure. And one of John Harvey's proteges was my boss, Galen Barnett, and Galen hired me. And I worked on this team. And I think there's one person there still now, Nancy, who might be there still. I don't remember. Mark Friesen. I don't think he's there. Kelly Yan, and I think she became a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So at some point I could have employed Kelly for services for the antidepressants I depend upon. Oh yeah, I'm off the max. So anyway, then I went to work for the Portland Tribune, and I worked for a Steve on the sports desk. See, I'm doing this without a script. I'm doing this without any notes. Steve. Ah. Damn. Steve Brandon. I was remembering a nickname for Steve, trying to remember a nickname for Steve before I could come up with his last name. He had a nickname based on these green health smoothies he would drink. So I don't remember that either, but I remember the green smoothies. And I worked for the Tribune when it was managed and edited by Dwight Janes. Went to a party in his houseboat once. It's a great houseboat. And I worked for Denise Zott on the Portland Tribune news copy desk. And I worked with Margaret Seiler, who is now the managing editor, I think, of Portland Monthly Magazine. I can remember Chuck Culpepper, the Oregonian columnist. I remember he wrote something about Lance Armstrong, and he liked an idea I had when I was copy editing his column. And I'm still good friends to this day with Jake Arnold, who is now a reporter for the Oregon School Board Association. But I talk with Jake every now and then, and we play silly board games, and I borrow stuff from him, like his bike or his inflatable kayak or boat or something. Jake, I bought my own kayak, so I'm not going to have to mooch off you for your boat anymore. And next year, when I turn 50, I'll have been an Oregonian for 25 years, for half my life. And I finally have my own kayak. So, walking home, thinking about what I could call my vlog, like the Working Stiff Diary, a Gen X worker's chronicle of the world. And I'm like, why would anyone want to listen to that? Which leads me to remember this story. I mean, if you want newspapers and humor and funny stuff that happened in the newsrooms, you think naturally of Dennis Boone, if you had the good fortune to work with him. Boone would do stuff like this. Okay, so I'm standing next to Boone and a woman editor whose name, and Boone would do stuff like this. He would reach around behind my butt and pinch my butt, the butt cheek on side, so that I would look at. This was the man who would just stand there and gaze out the picturesque Wichita Eagle newsroom window. There's a million stories in the naked city, and we've got 3 of them. He was just a funny man. He was a very funny man and a very wonderful man to work with, who also brewed beer and bottled it and sold it. I think he got it into the Colorado market too. I forgot the name of the beer, but I sure did drink a lot of it. I'm a guy who's deleted my Facebook account and not reestablished contact with a bunch of people. I don't send birthday cards and Christmas cards. Running afraid as far as I can from contact. So, I think for Gen X, I'm going to put Gen X into this blog. I just know it. It's going to be there. Like, I got to stop talking about the past. Like, who gives a freaking crap? The future is terrifying, right? The future is really exciting and has a lot of potential. The future will answer for humans, for this planet, if we can decarbonize, if we can untether ourselves from fossil fuels and carbon. For the federal government to come along and sequester carbon with a network of pipelines that's as large as the system we have now of pipes for delivering oil, separate out all the carbon from our activities and processes that we do now, but not change a thing about the way we live now, right? Like, what's so alarming about the solution of carbon sequestration, and it is a solution, and we need solutions, by God, we've got to do something. But what's so alarming about that is this seductive, we can keep on getting away with using carbon-emitting substances, fuels, activities. We can keep on getting away with business as usual. We can just keep doing what we're doing, and we'll sequester the carbon. But what are we going to do to change? And I want to talk about all this passion my generation had for changing and believing that we could do things on an individual scale and on a small group scale and on a community scale and scale up. But everybody had a role to play. And if everybody just does some little thing, ride transit, ride your bike, recycling, if everybody does something. My question is, what's happening now with anyone's notion of whether and how we're going to change the way we live in the push to save the planet and not heat it up past the point where everyone's going to fry and everything. For you, Jan Miffler, you made me laugh so goddamn hard that it was not safe for work. Her sense of humor, going back to one of the themes I'm looking for in this first column of better find a way to laugh. And I'm remembering all the names that I forgot to mention, right? Like, I didn't mention Joy Meyer, and I didn't mention Joel Fowlks. Two incredibly awesome people. Joel Fowlks, who I worked with at the Portland Tribune, who went off to law school and became a lawyer or attorney, and these are the kinds of things you'd know if you worked on a copy desk. And he wrote my and Karen's will. So if anybody out there needs some good estate planning lawyer work, get a hold of Joel Fowlks.